Good morning, VI. Do you know the condition that's the leading cause of kidney failure, lower limb amputations, and new cases of blindness among adults in the United States? Well, if you guessed diabetes, then you guessed correctly. Today on Good Morning VI, we're going to explore the sweet and lowdown of diabetes. Stay tuned to Good Morning VI.
Wake up, VI! It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Yeah. Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Good morning, VI. Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning. Healthy living, money matters. It's the world around us.
Good morning and welcome to Good Morning VI. It's the morning show for you to start your day right and walk through your day right. I'm Denise, and as always, along with Lisandra and Dolace, we aim to inform you and inspire you as we cover a variety of interesting topics important to our everyday lives and our community, like healthy living, green living, education and family, even money matters. Well, on today's program, we are going to open your eyes. Open your eyes and hopefully dispel some misconceptions about diabetes. We are going to have a diabetes talk. Well, the health and well-being of our viewers is really of great importance to us on Good Morning VI, and we always encourage it. That's why today we're going to have a medical expert who's going to talk about the facts as well as some fiction about diabetes. Isn't that right, Lisandra?
Oh, yes, it is. And you know what? I think each and every one of us has been touched by diabetes in some way.
Yeah, we all know someone.
Yes. So it's very important that our viewers watch today so we can all understand how diabetes can be prevented and how it affects us.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm already learning, right? Because just at the beginning of the show, in talking to our medical expert, I found out she's an endocrinologist, and I didn't know that was the medical specialist that you normally go to see for diabetes-related problems. But as always, despite what we say on the show, right? Our viewers should always go and check with their own physicians before
that's very
following
important.
anything.
Definitely.
Any
Well,
suggestions on our show.
And before we get to all that, as always, we always want to start the day right. So we start with a prayer, a scripture, and a word of encouragement. And Lisandra translates the scripture and the prayer for our Spanish-speaking viewers. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for the gift of faith that grows within us as we study your word, and for giving us the wisdom to make right choices that bring balance and victory in our lives. We thank you, Lord God, for your divine favor over our lives and for every single blessing so that we can walk in love, peace, and joy and be a blessing to others as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Padre, en el nombre de Jesús, le damos gracias por el regalo de la fe que crece dentro de nosotros mientras estudiamos su palabra y por habernos dado la sabiduría para tomar decisiones correctas que traen equilibrio y victoria en nuestras vidas hoy. Le agradecemos su favor divino sobre nuestras vidas y por cada bendición única, por lo que podemos caminar en paz, amor y alegría y ser una bendición para otros. En nombre de Jesús, amén.
Amen. And today's scripture comes from the book of Matthew. That's Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. He replied, "Because you have so little faith, I tell you the truth. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you."
Mateo 17:20. Jesús les dijo, por vuestra poca fe, porque de cierto os digo, que si tuviereis fe como un grano de mostaza, diréis a este monte, pásate de aquí allá, y se pasará, y nada os será imposible.
Well, and that brings us to our word of encouragement, which is also about faith. And our word of encouragement is, your faith in God will work for you. There's no need for you to rely on someone else's faith, since God has given everyone a measure of faith. Exercise your faith by speaking it and bring the change that you want into existence. Well, that's encouraging about faith. It's this one thing about the scripture when they talk about faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains. I remember one day in church, they passed around a mustard seed. So you can see really how tiny it is. Yes. Right? And so, we can feel comfortable that, it really just takes a little bit. You don't have to feel like so many times we say, oh, I got to go to somebody else who has a lot of faith to pray for me or to do. You don't always have to do that, but we all of us have gotten a measure of faith.
Yes.
So, and as small as a mustard seed, we can just exercise that and move mountains.
Yes,
each one of us.
And you know what? Even that small mustard seed can give us hope. And today's show, we're talking about diabetes, but, knowing about it, and understanding the disease can give us hope and increase our faith.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And, for me, faith is not a feeling. Faith is an action. And so, one of the things we'll learn is to be proactive about managing our health and well-being, right? To avoid or to deal with diabetes issues. And to me, that's an act of faith right there.
Oh, yes.
That's right, it is. It does require that kind of faith and that outlook of knowing that, hey, and hope is faith. It's it is that hope and knowing that, hey, even if this may touch you or somebody that you love, that you can live quite very fulfilling, enjoyable, active life along with it, just as long as you take care of it. And that's one thing about it. But it's so important to know about. So we're looking forward to that.
Knowledge leads to faith. Is
That's
this
right.
what you're saying to us, Denise? The more you know, the more you can believe.
Right. The
And
more
faith
you
and
know,
hope, they spell fair, which
exactly
is what we don't want to have.
That's right. That's right. And we can rely on that. Even if your faith you think is as small as a mustard seed, hey, you got it, right?
Mustard seed faith. A mustard seed, mountain moving faith. Okay, I like it. It'll work.
Yeah, we can move mountains. We have that kind of power.
We have that
to know
power,
that we
right?
have that power.
I know.
Each
And we
every
do.
one of us.
And we have to
And
believe
that's
it
good.
because it's there.
And
Have you
it's
ever
important
moved
to
a
speak
mountain with your faith, Denise?
If I ever moved I've moved many a mountain.
Oh,
with
wow.
my faith.
Oh, yes.
I'll tell you, once I decide, no, really, once deciding, I was in a place before, like when I felt like, oh, well, this person had so much faith in this person, but, and I came to a realization, also, even Pastor Adele had even said, look, you guys, don't keep coming to me. Go pray for yourself. You got it, and really believing that and exercising it and really standing and speaking it. Oh, it's worked wonders.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's really worked wonders. So, I'm
Faith-filled
still a
life.
work in progress, but I'm just saying.
Aren't we all?
I'm just saying.
Aren't we all?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, coming up next, we are going to continue with our diabetes talk with our medical experts, so you cannot miss it. Coming up next, stay tuned. Good Morning VI.
Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up. It's time.
Come visit us at 9000 Lockhart Garden or on the web www.furniturenvi.com or just call 774-2583.
Let Furniture Inn make your house a home.
Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning.
Good morning, VI, and welcome back. And today on Good Morning VI, we're doing a diabetes talk. And we have a special guest who has dedicated her life to knowing the disease, Dr. Judy Barzy. Welcome, Dr. Barzy. It's good to have you with us today. And Dr. Barzy is a board-certified internal medicine, as well as board-certified in endocrinology, diabetes, and metabolism. Dr. Barzy was born in Montserrat, received her medical degree from Tufts University School of Medicine in Boston, Massachusetts, and her fellowship in endocrinology at UT Southwestern Medical in Dallas, Texas. In June 2009, Dr. Barzy closed her private practice in South Florida and relocated here to St. Thomas with her family. Wonderful, and that was really good for us.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Barzy, tell us a little bit about what is endocrinology?
Endocrinology is a specialty in medicine that deals with the hormones and all the glands in the body. So in order for the organs to work right, hormones and the glands that regulate them operate through these hormones. So endocrinology just takes the place of all those hormones, and diabetes just being one of the most prevalent conditions that we deal with in endocrinology, but it's not the only one.
Okay, what others do you deal with in endocrinology?
There's thyroid problems, anybody with thyroid problems. So females who have infertility, or men too who have testosterone or fertility issues. There's also pituitary problems, adrenal problems.
Okay, yes, okay, so everything to do with the glands.
The cushions. Every gland is functioned by the endocrine system, basically.
Okay, what really brought you to specialize in endocrinology?
We mentioned earlier Montserrat. That's where I'm from. That's where I was born. So when I went off to school, I wanted to be able to come home, to be able to go back to my island, to be able to give service to my people. And you have to come home with a specialty, because Montserrat, as you know, is a small island quite like St. Thomas. You have to go home with a specialty that you can serve a lot of people with. And so endocrinology fit that very well, because it involves different things, but not too many complex things that need a lot of machinery or a lot of, it just needs the person, the physician.
Oh, okay. And you know, Dr. Barzy, there are a lot of viewers out there who have a lot of questions about diabetes. And the first question we have from our viewer is, can my diabetes go away on its own?
Well, unfortunately, no. Once you're diagnosed with diabetes, there's no cure. So you will always have diabetes once you're diagnosed with diabetes.
Well, I have a situation of a friend of mine recently. She was diagnosed with diabetes, much to her surprise and dismay, of course.
Yes.
But after that, they put her on insulin, where she had to give herself shots. In about 3 months, during that period, she cut down on a lot of starches and everything in her diet. She lost 12 pounds, went back to the doctor. They took her off of medication.
Oh, wow.
So
How does that
what is
work?
that? How does that work, and why?
So that's another common misconception. So she can be off of medicine, whether it be insulin or pills, and that would not mean that she is cured of her diabetes. It simply means that she still has diabetes, but it is well controlled with lifestyle, which is one of the key components. You know, your exercise and your eating right, losing a lot of the weight is imperative, and so she's well controlled, but just simply with lifestyle.
So she's not medication dependent, but she still has
Correct.
it.
She still has diabetes.
Okay, so it doesn't go away on its own,
It does not
essentially.
go away on its own, unfortunately.
Okay. So tell us what is diabetes? We're talking about it, we're using the word. What is diabetes?
Well, in a simple way to try to explain it, diabetes is when there is a mismatch, basically a misbalance of insulin and glucose. And so if there's too little insulin around, there's too much glucose, and one has to use the glucose effectively. All of our millions of cells use glucose for energy. So if you're not able to take the insulin as the key, as I say, and use it to get it to the cells, then you have what? Too much glucose in the bloodstream. And so that's what diabetes is. It's high sugars, high blood glucose in the blood, because the insulin is not able to work properly or to dispose of it.
Okay, and we have a slide, and you know, the title is what it is and why it happens, and I think you just described it very well. I mean, this is why it happens, because the glucose is...
Because there's an imbalance, there's an imbalance between the glucose and insulin. And insulin acts like a key, like I said, it acts like a key in order to get glucose into the cells. And as the glucose has to get into the cell, if the insulin is not enough, insulin around, then it can't work right. Or if the insulin is there in abundance but not working properly, then they won't get the glucose into the cells. And what did I remember? I just said that the glucose is necessary for energy for the cells. All of our cells need glucose for survival.
What causes this imbalance? What causes it to happen?
We don't have, we don't have a reason. Now, the latest journals that came out on this trying to say that what is it, why is it? Is it because someone's overweight? Is it because someone doesn't eat right? There's too much out there. We still don't know. There's a lot of data out there as to not knowing why. One of the biggest studies actually showed that you have someone who's twins, identical twins, and one has it and one doesn't. So genetics are not the only thing. What they're postulating now is that also there must be something in the environment. So you must have a family connection, must have some reason for that, but then the environmental clue, which is what is that? We don't know. Is it some of the plastics? Is it environmental pollutants? We really don't know what it is that triggers in some and not in others.
So Dr. Barzi, I love sweet things, right? I love sugar. Okay, like cake. In fact, I don't eat the cake, I eat the frosting. Is that gonna cause diabetes? I mean, it's called sugar, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a very good question. No, that won't cause diabetes unless you have the setup to have it. Exactly, exactly. So you have to have that genetic component, and then something in the environment could trigger for you later on. So you always want to make sure that you have the sugar, the frosting in moderation.
In moderation. So it should be a trigger then? It could be a trigger then.
Sorry?
That's what you're saying? It could be a trigger? Well, if you're predisposed to it, eating sweets could be a trigger.
Well, if you're predisposed to it, then what happens in the environment trigger is that you then can go on to gain more weight. And if you gain weight, then the fat deposits in the incorrect places. And whatever that other triggers are, that's what can then cause it to happen. So it's not to say like, we'll tell our kids now, oh, don't eat any sweets because you'll have diabetes. That's not going to be a correct perception. Live right, live healthy, eat in some kind of balance, and then you go from there. But yes, an overabundance of anything, can cause a problem. So you don't want to do that.
What tests do you have to undergo to find out that you do have diabetes? I mean, I know, the little machine, the glucose monitor, is that the only test?
No, so sometimes what's more important before the testing is, well, what do you feel? You have someone that's coming to you and they're saying, well, I don't feel good. I feel tired all the time. I feel weak. I'm losing a lot of weight. And girl, I was trying to lose a lot of weight, but I'm losing a lot of weight. And then people get concerned when they start losing weight and they didn't intend to. At some time, they will then decide, okay, let me see what that is. So a lot of weight loss, urinating a lot, drinking a lot, being thirsty a lot, and sometimes just feeling overall not yourself. Just feeling sick. Just don't feel good. You got to check up head to toe and you still don't feel well. That's one of the first things that one needs to go. And a lot of people that go to the doctor for a checkup don't get the blood test that is necessary. Sometimes they need a simple blood test that will tell them whether the sugar levels are too high or too low. And so those are some of the first diagnostic tests that you need. In order to be followed, then you need tests every 3 months. Certain tests called the A1C.
Yes.
Anybody heard of what that one is?
Yes.
Yeah. The A1C is a test that tells you over the last 3 months how well or how poorly controlled your diabetes is. And so that's key for anybody being initially diagnosed and then in order to follow to see how your plan is working, whether your medication or your lifestyle, like your friend with the exercise, is working well or not. And so that's what we would use. It's very important. Also, the other tests that are mentioned is your cholesterol. Your cholesterol numbers must be within certain targets because diabetes, it basically mingles with the heart. And one of those leading causes of problems in diabetes is, like you had mentioned at the outset, heart attack and heart disease. So you want to make sure your cholesterol profiles and cholesterol numbers are checked and keep in good order. Certain goals being met.
Okay, and Dr. Barzi, we'll be right back with you and we'll continue with our diabetes talk on Good Morning VI, so stay tuned.
It's time to tune in. Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa. Rejoice and be glad in it.
Why many children love G-Clef Music Academy, Tillett Gardens and Content. Call 344-6449. G, it's fun learning to play.
It's time to tune in. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Good morning, VI. Good morning.
Welcome back to Good Morning VI, where we have with us our endocrinologist, Dr. Judy, not Judith, Judy Barzy. Right, Dr. Barzy?
That's correct.
All right. So we've been talking about diabetes, and one of the things I wanted to ask you, how do you manage diabetes? You know, so you get this diagnosis, you talk about lifestyle. Are there other ways to manage your diabetes?
Well, I think the important point that we want to bring out with that, and we had some slides to show that, is that taking care of your diabetes simply means exactly that, that you are a captain of your team. It takes a team effort, and you're going to have a group of healthcare professionals, so your internist, your endocrinologist, perhaps a nutritionist if there's someone that you're able to see. And as a part of that team, you are in charge. You have to learn a lot about your diabetes. You have to learn what it is, why it happens, and how best you can control that. You know, it's very important for persons who have diabetes to recognize that there are millions of people who have diabetes, and so you're not alone. And if you know that, then that process of taking care of it, knowing you're a part of a team, is going to be able to help you manage your diabetes, because it is controllable with your management.
Okay. And does the type of care, well, first of all, I know there are two types of diabetes, right? Type 1 and type 2. And what's the distinction?
So type 1 diabetics are the persons who have little or no insulin, basically. So they depend on insulin. They have to have insulin for their survival. Type 2 diabetics, which is the more prevalent of the two classifications, they have some insulin, but it doesn't work right.
Okay.
The amount of insulin that they have is in abundance, but it's not working correctly. Remember I mentioned before that insulin is the key?
Yes.
So basically their key is kind of not working, so therefore the glucose cannot be transported over to the cells effectively. And so that's what happens with the type 2 diabetes. Not that they don't have insulin, but they do, but it's just not working correctly.
So which one has to get the insulin injections?
So
One or two?
both may need insulin. One will require it. Type 1 diabetics cannot be on pills. That will be contraindicated. And so type 1 diabetics have to have insulin to survive. Their body doesn't make enough of it. Type 2 diabetics, sometimes they can begin in a lifestyle mode, or like you said, your friend needed insulin initially, but then doesn't need it anymore. So both of them can be dependent on insulin, but one will require it. So it's not as if you can say one or the other. I mean, at the end of the day, most type 2 diabetics will require insulin.
And you know what, Dr. Barzy, I know that there are a lot of misconceptions, and one of them, especially for the Hispanic community, is the pills versus injecting yourself. My family in Puerto Rico, my uncle has diabetes and he takes the pills. And, he was having a conversation with my mom, who's also diabetic. And, he was telling her, over in the Virgin Islands, I hear that all the doctors are just giving, you insulin to inject. Well, here we use the pills because the injections are no good. And I'm like, what's the difference? And, is one better than the other? And is there an overuse of the prescribing of the injections?
Interesting. She's asking the prescriber, the number one prescriber of the insulin, because I know by the pathophysiology that it's necessary. So when I came, I guess, I'm not sure how it all started, but a couple patients came in and told me that I'm known as the injector. The person who's giving only the insulin.
You're talking about Dr. Barzy?
Right.
Your uncle is talking about me.
I think he must be talking about me. And you know what? I try to explain it as simply as this. When you get diabetes, you think of your insulin level as a tank, right? You have a tank full of insulin. So in order to get diabetes, that insulin tank is going to be diminishing. It's going to go smaller and smaller and less and less. Pills do not replace insulin. There's absolutely no pill that's insulin, glucose. None of the pills are.
What is a pill?
So the pills are simply going to work on the different organs to do different things. So certain pills will work on the end of the liver. Now the liver is separate from the pancreas that makes insulin, and the liver makes sure that the brain has glucose. Glucose has to survive for the brain to survive, and the liver's sole job is to make glucose. So certain pills suppress the amount of glucose that the liver puts out. Other pills make the insulin that your body has work a little bit better. And then other pills do the same thing by pulling the glucose into the muscles. But insulin is necessary to replace that tank as it's diminishing.
So then let's talk about a care plan. I know you have a slide on that too. Just give it, for our audience, just give us like a 5-point care plan?
Well, a care plan must involve your meals. You must think about making sure you have an appropriate meal plan. Now, that is very difficult for persons here in the Virgin Islands, because when they hear meal plan, and probably in Puerto Rico, they think, I can't have my fungi, I can't have my rice and peas, I can't have my peas and beans, or plantains, or, right? But it's not about that. A nutritionist is one who's going to be able to help exactly. But the key to here is portions. Portions. You can have all of your favorite foods, but it has to be in the right portion. Now, when I say that, I had one patient who showed me his portions, and I was like, okay, but it's not about your portions. It's portions that was set by the American Dietetic Association. So, you know, it's always a matter of, there are. You know, you can't use your pot spoon versus my pot spoon. No, there are set standards, so we have to follow those standards. And if we do that and we learn that, then you'll be more gratified to know that no one is just going to have you having, I guess rabbit food is the favorite statement they always say, which is salad. You know, no one expects that.
So what would be a good diet for a diabetic? So breakfast, lunch, dinner?
No, nowadays we don't prescribe diets in that fashion. We try to have a patient, well, a nutritionist would, so that's part of the healthcare team, because I'm the endocrinologist and you have a nutritionist who's much more versed than I am. So forgive me, all nutritionists who are listening. I'll try to answer this as best I could. But it basically means that, you know, if you're going to ask someone, what do you eat? It's better to take a food log from them so you know what they're eating and how best you can tailor what they're eating. Then of what they're eating, you can then tell them what are the portions that would be more appropriate. So if you like cereal, you like Special K cereal in the morning, you like milk and you like it with a banana.
Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes, that would work too, but that's lots of sugar. But that would still work. But that will still work. But if you do, you just have to go over it with a nutritionist, and that'll be more appropriate rather than me outlining a plan.
Okay. But my Frosted Flakes are fine, right? As you said,
yes,
because
portions.
It's all about the
Much
portion.
less than the Special K, of course, right?
Much less than the Special
Much
K.
less sugar than the Special K.
No, much less portion size.
Perhaps
in the
3/4
Special
cup versus 1 cup.
Versus
perhaps.
1 cup.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yes.
Versus 2 cups. No, okay. Are there any you talk about the rabbit food diet, but really, you know, and we're island people, we like our herbs and we like our natural stuff. Is there like a fruit or so that's like a super fruit for diabetes?
No, and unfortunately, fruit must be counted, and then people will have to try to remember that that's a carb. It's going to turn into glucose. So you got your 3 main groups are going to be your fruit, your milk, and the starches that you know so well. The cakes and the concentrated sweets, obviously, but the potatoes, the plantain, the dasheen, the breadfruit, but all of those. So fruit are included in that.
All of them.
Wait,
Fruits
so,
are not
so
free.
if I'm eating a mango and it's mango season, I have to take that into account.
Count for
Everything,
You have to account for that. So if you're having a mango, then I suggest that lunch, if you're going to have lunch, let the mango be a part of whatever that lunch is. It doesn't get to be separate. Also, a lot of people like to drink juices. And it's the same thing. If you're going to drink juices, I rather prefer you eat your carbs rather than have your liquid carbs, because your juices are going to count. As a part of your meal. Right, and it's just
drinking instead of eating.
Juices are not really, they're just full of concentrated sweet. They don't really offer a lot of the fiber that your fruit would. So it's better to have an orange, or an apple instead of having the juice. More effective.
Just eat the fruit itself.
Correct.
Okay, so in terms of, so we have lifestyle, we have diet, and clearly anything else we need to manage.
So you have your meal plan, you have your activity, and then you will have you're seeing a physician, and you will determine if medications will be necessary. If medications are necessary, you must know what the medications are, how to take the medications, when you should be taking them. Another very important part of your plan is you got to test. If you don't test your blood sugar, then you'll have no idea what the number is going to be. In order to test, you can take control of management. You don't wait till the next 3 months to get to the doctor. If you're testing, you know 2 things. My food portions are working fine. My activity is working fine. Oh, my medicines are working fine. You need to know that by testing. If you don't test, because you don't know, doesn't mean that damage is not occurring, because damage is occurring still.
How much do you test? Because I think that's one of the issues, and my mom is going to be like, oh, she's talking about me. But my mom is forever testing, like right before she eats, right after she eats. I would say, and I'm exaggerating, mommy, I'm sorry, at least 5 times a day. I'm like, Mom, you have to test so much.
So it all depends. Remember, when your body didn't have diabetes, your body operated naturally. And so it knew how to keep it in order.
Okay.
If you're on a certain insulin plan, then yes, 8 to 10 times sometimes. Why?
Wow.
Because one has to know which direction you're going in and how it is to treat, especially if you're on insulin. Is the sugar high? Is it low? And is it something that I have to do? So it's very important to test. And the how has to be a special plan, an individualized plan for testing. That's probably best to say.
So then mommy isn't testing enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm
but,
sorry, Mommy.
But you know what? When we come back, we'll talk about insulin and how insulin actually works. Since you're talking about insulin so much, we want to get some insight on that.
Lady, huh?
So stay tuned when we come back with Dr. Judy Barzi, endocrinologist.
Yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa. Rejoice and be glad in it. Yeah.
Virgin Islands Oncology and Hematology provides care to patients in the VI with cancers and blood disorders. Dr. Errol Hobdy on St. Thomas and Dr. Preston Dalglish on St. Croix, 2 locations, 1 team, provide chemotherapy in a private setting. Virgin Islands Oncology and Hematology has been serving the VI since 2006. On St. Thomas, 776-1551. On St. Croix, 772-1551. Compassionate, caring, competent Caribbean.
Good morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made.
Welcome back to Good Morning BI, where we are talking about diabetes. It's Diabetes Talk today, and we're talking with Dr. Judy Barzi about diabetes. She is a specialist in the area. She's a specialist in internal medicine and in the area of endocrinology. And diabetes in particular. So let's go on. What about, as far as diabetes, is it preventable?
Good question.
So for a lot of people, it could be preventable, especially if you're looking at lifestyle. And that's why I think certain type 2 diabetics usually hear exercise, lose weight. And if you exercise and you lose weight, then you don't get diabetes. But I always want to caution, how many people do you know who are obese? A lot. And of the population that you know who are obese, how many have diabetes? It's not as simple as that, exactly. So it's not just about being overweight and not doing that. And that's a very important misconception, especially for family members, and support wants to know that it's not just about being overweight. It really has a lot of difference. But if you're type 2 and have some weight, you would be able to lose weight and help prevent some of the complications and reduce your need for maybe some medications if you have diabetes. So that's also, important in that sense. But preventable, it's still all about, did you have the right genetic exposure and the right environmental exposure, and why did it trigger in you and not me? And and can it trigger at another time? So preventable being lived in a nice, healthy lifestyle that way, but it
so that
still
can
may
lower
come.
the risk, but as far as preventing it, maybe so, maybe not. But it at least can lower your risk when you have a healthy lifestyle.
If you have a healthy lifestyle, because then the theories are that fat won't get deposited in the wrong spaces, making it more likely now with your genetic exposure to be the reason that the environmental reason, whatever that may be, may trigger, for you.
It's one of those places, because I had heard also about the size of your midsection, that tells whether or not
You're going to be a diabetic?
Yes, even if you may not be obese, but then your midsection is quite large.
Well, it's all about, just like I said,
to
where the fat is depositing, and if the fat is depositing around your organs versus in your organs, and so for for heart disease and risk factors, we use a lot of those, because the risk for the metabolic syndrome is a lot of those parameters all fall together and put one at increased risk if you have an abdominal ratio that's higher than it should be. So,
We talked about in the previous segment about testing for diabetes. Now, are there any particular times or manners in which you should test?
Well, for most people, it's going to still be individualized according to what plan they're on, whether they're on insulin, whether they're on pills. But in general, if someone is taking oral pills, the need to be testing as frequently as 8 to 10 times would not be as necessary, but it's certainly important to test if they're taking oral pills. After your meals would be a very important time, 2 hours after a meal, because then you'll know what effect the meal has and what portion of carbs you had that could affect the blood sugar. Sometimes it's important to test at bedtime for certain populations, just depending on how you're feeling going into bed. Our blood sugars will naturally drop at night. So testing at bedtime is important because if you're less than 110, you may want to take a snack. If you're, depending on the numbers, very important that, what everybody, your viewers are hearing is that numbers are specific to your care plan. So what I'm speaking about are just general numbers. You may have heard different numbers from your different team members, healthcare professional that's taking care of you currently, that you would have to then apply.
So it isn't individualized.
More so, yes. We have general terms that we use, certain targets that we might want to reach or achieve, as we have a slide to show probably later.
We have another slide too, which, well, the question is, what are the ideal blood sugar levels?
So the hemoglobin A1C is 1, 2 that I would like to touch back to. That level must be less than 6.5. So if one wants to know how well their blood sugar is doing, then wants to know what the A1C is. So I always ask my diabetics, what's your A1C level? If you're diabetic, you need to know what that is. So if you don't know, any of the viewers that are listening, make sure that you ask your doctor, what's your A1C? Your target is less than 6.5 in most persons. Okay? We can certainly adjust those targets depending on the individualized care plan, but that's usually what it should be. If you are testing before meals, the blood sugar should be between 70 and 130, and on any random, testing of the blood sugar should be at least less than 180 in the different societies. That's about, what we usually recommend.
And how would you describe, like insulin? It's still a bit mysterious to me. Insulin, what is insulin?
Well, it's a natural hormone. It's a natural hormone, insulin is, and the way I tend to describe it, I guess, it's a medical breakthrough, meaning for a lot of people who had diabetes, both type 1 and type 2, the glucose levels are going to be extremely high. And the only way, if your body's insulin is not working correctly, or if you don't have enough insulin, for it to get fixed, so the glucose levels can go down and prevent some of the complications that we will discuss, you have to have insulin. So you're given this outside injection because unfortunately insulin does not come in the form of a pill. They have to manufacture it and make it, and it's only made in an injectable form. A couple of years ago it was actually inhaled insulin, but that used to be, but that kind of didn't work. It worked fine, sorry, but we didn't, some of the physicians, it was a harder modality to get people to be using, so it kind of phased out, and it's no longer, the company no longer markets it. Yes, we don't use the inhaled insulin anymore. But the insulin shots are still very important as a natural hormone. Your body used to make it, and so scientifically, those scientists have engineered certain insulin and molecules, changed them around so that it's pretty much the same thing like what your body had in order to work effectively, to keep those blood sugar levels down.
I see. Well, Dr. Barzi, we have another question from one of our viewers. If I need to take insulin, is my diabetes getting worse?
Okay, that's a very good question. By the time most patients get to me, as we said before, I have them on insulin, right?
The injector.
The injector, yes, exactly. Well, unfortunately, no, it does not mean your diabetes is getting worse. It just simply means that is the stage where your diabetes is at. And so it's very hard to cope with a change in a care plan. And so that might mean switching from medicine, switching from lifestyle, now to insulin. But that change in your care plan, if you emphasize that is where your body is now, and one just has to supplement where your body is now with the appropriate type of therapy, and insulin being that at that time, then it's also much easier for someone to cope or understand that, no, you didn't do anything wrong. You need not blame yourself if you're requiring insulin because your body needs to be supplemented at that time. Some persons can start on insulin. Another favorite question for that is, will I be on insulin forever?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good question.
Do you switch back to the pill?
You told us at the head of the segment, Denise, you told us that your friend got started on insulin.
Yes.
She needed it, right? The sugars were extremely high. We needed to control that. Then lifestyle and changes, sugars got under control, and for right now, she's not on insulin. It may get revisited later on. As I said, 99% of persons will require insulin eventually, but that will be then, if it comes.
Well, another question, when we talk about all these things you have to look for if you are diagnosed with diabetes, what about the quality of life? Can you still maintain a great quality of life and enjoy life and be active and swim, jump rope, whatever? Exactly.
Order dessert.
In the words of one of my patients, it is your life. So you need to take charge of it, right? So it's as much as you want to be able to do. And if you learn everything about diabetes and you learn what it is that your body can or cannot handle, what medications you need to supplement it, then you can have a full active life. All ages can have a full active life and do well, but you have to take control. Take that and say, what do I want? And what do I want out of life is everything. And if you want everything, it's all yours. Then you can have it.
Yes.
You can absolutely have it.
That's faith.
You can have
That's
it.
the
Yes.
faith we're talking
Yes.
about.
You can have it.
Active
Just
faith,
believe
yeah.
that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's a good note coming up next in our next segment. Dr. Barzi is going to still join us on our next segment where we're going to talk about the problems that could occur if you don't really pay attention and take control of the diabetes. So coming up next, stay tuned on Good Morning VI.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up.
Come visit us at 9000 Lockhart Garden or on the web www.furnitureinvi.com or just call 774-2583.
Let furniture in, make your house a home.
VI, good morning, morning. Wake up. It's time to tune in. Good morning, morning. This is the day the Lord
Good morning. And we're here on Good Morning VI with Dr. Barzi with our diabetes talk. Welcome back, Dr. Barzi.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, it is a pleasure and it's so educational. We're here learning, even off camera, about diabetes. And at this point, tell us about some of the problems that diabetes causes.
So I think for a lot of people, the first two short-term complications are the sugars can either be high or the sugars can either be low. And a lot of people tend to kind of blur those lines. If the sugar is low, you can have symptoms of feeling with fatigued, tired, nervous, sweaty, irritable, hungry, blurry vision, you know, and so if that's the case, then you want
No, I feel like I've been having symptoms like that lately, but I don't claim these things. Faith.
No, faith.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So that's initially.
That's initially.
Yes.
Okay.
And to treat the low blood sugar, if you have that, you will clearly take something with sugar. You know, you can take some hard candy or some soda pop or juice, you know, stuff like that. You want to be mindful to not treat the low blood sugar with M&Ms or things that have chocolate in them because it will just make the process of bringing the blood sugar up much slower. Okay?
Oh, chocolate?
Chocolate's
Okay, no
not
chocolate.
No, hard candy, glucose tablets, you know, juice or soda, you know, at those times to treat that are probably the only times you might hear me say that, but not even too often because all those things, especially the juice, has tons of calories and we all don't need those extra calories every time your sugar goes low. Another one of the short-term complications are the sugars can be too high. And if your sugar is too high, then one has to be adhering to your plan, making sure that the medications were okay, and if they weren't, then get those adjusted, you know, in that sense, but spotting those symptoms. The bigger complications that you're probably alluding to are what we said at the top of the segment. You got amputations being a big thing. Now remember the blood sugars, if even they're not testing, it's going to go into every organ, your eyes, your kidneys, your heart, your legs. So it's going to go into your nerves. It's going to go into all those systems. And when it goes, damage is occurring. So whether you know what your blood sugar is or not, it doesn't really matter. Damage is occurring. So a lot of people don't have symptoms and they feel fine. They're losing a lot of weight and they thought, oh, it's my new, you know, plan, whatever it is. But be mindful that glucose is the energy that the cells needed and the calories that will feed the cells. So you could lose weight. And you could lose weight and it wouldn't be a good weight loss at all. And therefore you have to know to prevent these complications. You have to know what those levels are, know what the targets are that we mentioned in the other section to prevent these complications, help prevent these complications.
Okay, and I think one of the things that we haven't mentioned, you know, because I work with the elderly, a lot of times males who have diabetes, the first thing that happens is erectile dysfunction. I think that's one of the things I just wanted to mention because
Is it confined just to elderly males?
I know it's not. It's not. But Dr. Barzi can elaborate.
Well, I wouldn't say one of the first things, but yes, I mean, for a lot of people, there are different hormones, right, that regulate erectile dysfunction, and so you have to first make sure that the testosterone levels are appropriate. So before all my diabetic males out there go get all worried and
yeah, I know, right?
Let's
spread the word. Yes,
yeah, it is definitely a complication. Why? Because it's nerves and blood vessels that are all regulated, and so if the blood vessels and the nerves are not all working right in any of your organs, your
Yes.
bladder, your genitals, any of
Okay.
those organs, then you're going to have a problem. But it's always advised to speak to the doctors first and make sure they get a complete hormonal workup and profile, because it may be that the erectile dysfunction is from a hormonal imbalance, such as testosterone being low, plus or minus the diabetes. So
Okay. And I just wanted to mention one more thing also. I don't know if it's a misconception, but yeast infections, getting, the many frequent yeast infections. They say, that
for men also, that's simply the fact that diabetes is not well controlled,
Okay.
and so you're going to get any infection.
Okay.
Yeast just being more prevalent, but you can get any infection, and that's one of the first signs. If your diabetes is not well controlled, then you get repeated yeast infections because your
Yes.
body can't clear that. Men can also get the same thing, yeast infections. Yeah.
Okay. And we have another question from our public and for Dr. Barzi, and that question is, Dr. Barzi, can insulin cause blindness or lead to amputations?
That's a very good question, and unfortunately for a lot of people that is false. It's just not true. Your insulin, remember I mentioned before, is a natural hormone, and so it's a substance that your body needs, is what your body produces. So by using the insulin on the outside and giving it, it's not going to cause that. Here's what happens. By the time you get to requiring insulin, you already had that complication. So by the time the insulin is started, it's like both are coming together. So the assumption is, I just got the insulin and therefore they had an amputation. I just got the insulin, therefore the complication was there before, and perhaps you were resistant, or perhaps the provider didn't advise that insulin should be given, and you didn't get it early enough.
Okay.
So that complication was already there. The insulin did not cause it, unfortunately.
But doesn't something have to happen before you get the amputation? I mean, some kind of an injury of some sort, or does it just automatically?
You wake up one day and oops, there goes.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of patients that, sometimes it can be as easy as, oops, you slipped at home on Saturday and you had a little bruise here, and yes, that's the first thing. Any traumatic area is now going to introduce bacteria to come in. And in a diabetic, you can't clear your immune system, your white cells, the things that eat all the bacteria up, they're impaired. And if your blood sugars are not well controlled for 2-3 weeks in that state of being uncontrolled, they can't work right. So that simple little cut, scrape, blister you see on your toe, check your feet all the time, check your feet regularly. That's your first thing to happen.
I mean, like things like the triple antibiotic ointment don't work.
I know.
Not that they don't work, but take some medical advice. I'm not suggesting that what my grandma used to do, the 3 bush, or you put the 3 bushes over. I'm not suggesting that wouldn't be appropriate, but in the overall care and how much we know that it leads to amputations, I would suggest that we add a piece of the holistic care to the traditional medicine and go get it checked out, because you could wait too long trying to see if this would work, and trying to see if the Tiger Balm would work, and trying to see if the shielding oil would work. All these things are good remedies, but if they're not working, you want to know sooner rather than later. By the time you reach, it may be too late for us to help.
I'm sorry, but if somebody gets a cut, then a diabetic gets a cut, then if they immediately get medical attention, is that what would prevent?
It may be able to
later
prevent a complication.
May
exactly.
again. You see that word?
I'm sorry.
I know it's may,
It
right?
prevents and may prevent.
But it's the reality, I have patients who blister was fine, a blister on the toe, on one day of the week, Wednesday, went to the doctor the next morning, and unfortunately the bacteria spread too fast.
In one day? In less than 24 hours?
In less than 48 hours.
Less than 48 hours.
Oh, and so then it was necessary to amputate.
Yes, because it's just going to keep on spreading, and one wants to prevent and save as much limb as we could.
So once you have diabetes,
It's not the end of the world.
tell us something good, please. Because I'm like,
it's not. For all that we've discussed, if you use knowledge, use knowledge as your power, as I tell my patients, and make sure that you're going to have strength and support around you to be able to cope with change. Make sure that you're aware that medications and lifestyle are imperative to follow. Make sure you know what the complications are, what your goals are, and what your care plan should be. If you do that, know that you're not alone. Know that you're not alone. Millions have diabetes.
Yes.
And with those millions who have diabetes, they have learned to do one thing, realize that this is their life and they're going to take control. Diabetes is fully manageable. You can live a full active life, but you have to be willing to say, what are the choices? What are the choices I'm going to make? And those choices are either going to be in food and lifestyle, exercise, and appropriate follow-up and care with your physician. It's definitely a hard disease to get and understand, but and it's chronic and it's not going away. It's going to be progressive. It's going to not be curable, as we've mentioned.
We have some slides that talk about helping us cope. As you're saying, it's progressive and it's, how do we cope?
I know.
A support system. Good Morning VI. This is an awesome, forum to share support and to recognize that there are others, getting the word out and realizing that there are others who can teach us things. As a physician, I can always learn, and I can always keep on learning from my patients, and so can the audience from other persons that they know. If you go on websites, if you go on the American Association of Diabetes, if you go on to a couple of the slides speak about Novo Nordisk for changing diabetes. If there is, I'm not sure, is there a diabetes support group in the VI?
I was about to ask you, actually.
I'm not sure.
Having moved here for 3 years, guys, I don't know. I'm not aware of one. I can't start one up either. I'm just a little too crazy and busy.
Of course.
But I think there may be one in St. Croix, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not certain. Yeah.
So some of the support materials, the literature and, getting information from your doctor.
And talking to persons who have diabetes and making sure that you are well informed about what they're saying, even bringing up some of the misconceptions to your physicians and getting those myths dispelled. Taking insulin, is it hard? There are many delivery ways, things that we can't probably even get into here. So how insulin delivery now is so much easier. It's so much different than what people's thoughts are from what you remember and what your grandma used to do. And so it's quite different.
Is there a cure in the horizon? What is going on with the research?
So
give us some hope.
For a lot of people, so about a year and a half ago I moved, and a patient needed to have dialysis because that's one of the complications of kidney, but didn't want to have dialysis and actually went away and had a kidney pancreas transplant. So now they don't require any insulin, don't require dialysis. So there are some people who could qualify or become eligible for those transplants. It still means a whole different set of chronic diseases with immunosuppressive medicines, and hard to have a transplant, but at least they're living a different life with that. But there are transplants that are available, but not for a lot, not for everybody, but certainly those things can be explored. And the research is persisting. The Juvenile Diabetes Association is putting out a lot of research and asking, for persons who have certain types of diabetes to enroll so that they can get the research going, and we need a lot of people here too to be able to enroll so they can see all populations and try to help, in different ways.
Oh, this has been so informative. Thank you
Amazing.
so much,
You're
Dr.
very welcome.
Barzi.
My pleasure.
Yes.
You're welcome.
And as we end our diabetes talk on Good Morning VI, we're coming up with some inspirational words and your encouragement and homework for the week. So stay tuned on Good Morning VI.
Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up, VI. It's time to tune in. This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Hey! Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up.
Watch at our earlier daylight savings time.
This is the day the Lord has made. Good morning, VI. Good morning, morning. Wake up.
What's your prescription for carrying a professional service? The Medicine Shop Pharmacy. We accept most insurance plans. Plus, you'll save more by using the Medicine Shop Prescription Discount Card. We carry a full line of medical supply products for sale and rental, hospital uniforms in all sizes. We're the best choice for sundry products, greeting cards, vitamins, and much more. The Medicine Shop Pharmacy, 776-1235, Havenside Shopping Mall, carrying beyond prescriptions.
Wake up, VI. It's time to tune in. This is the day the Lord has made.
Welcome back to Good Morning VI. We have been having a diabetes talk today, and we've been talking with our special guest, Dr. Judy Barzy, who has been talking to us about all of the facts and sometimes some of the fiction regarding diabetes. I thought it was really informative.
Yes.
I really learned a lot.
Yeah, so did I.
You know,
Yeah, almost too much.
I think so.
Like,
I think so, because I do have close family members, very close family members who have type 2. And I've never seen any real difference in lifestyle. They just live a normal life. So I've never thought of it as being anything that's, you know, crippling or anything at all. And
could lead to the
so for me, when hearing this, I'm like, wow, oh my God.
spread the word.
I don't know, it's kind of disturbing. But then at least I mean, there is the positive side that I've seen people who've had it for many years and they just live lively, wonderful lives. So it's really not.
Which is important.
Right. And that is all possible. And of course, faith and, you know, it is God's will that we be in health and that we are healthy, so we can walk in God's will and you know, really know that we can live a healthy lifestyle.
Move mountains.
That's right.
And
Move mountains,
you know,
that's right.
we talk about some of the empowerment, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that there are other people, you know, being enlightened and having faith that you will be well and you will be healed and you will be made whole. You know,
I think that's probably the best thing, like in talking about having that network of knowing people and talking to people, because I think it could be so inspiring for people who are diagnosed with it, that you say, well, so and so has it and so has it.
They're fine.
But gosh, they look great. Oh, and then it can make them feel a lot better. You know, that it really
can be managed.
is right. It can be managed, and you can still have a joyful, great quality of life.
Yes, we can.
Yep. So I'm glad your mom's going to be fine too.
Yeah, of course. She looks great, by the way.
And she is an example. You see her, and she's active all the time. That's good. Well, that brings us to our assignment for the week. So our assignment for the week.
Homework.
Okay, this is the homework. Okay, and if we're talking about faith, okay, speaking words of faith.
Okay.
Remember? Okay, the assignment of the week is start to reprogram certain areas of your life for success by regularly and consistently speaking words of faith to bring positive change into existence. Okay? So that is reprogramming. So that even comes like reprogram. Right. That's right. And remember, in speaking those words,
You have to
is so
say it out
important.
loud, right? Like
you have to say it.
Look at yourself in the mirror and say self. Whatever.
Self-talk.
Yes.
Right.
Self-talk. Positive self-talk.
Right.
Self-talk.
Positive self-talk, regardless of what it is, you know, because that's like really the first step. But so many areas in the Bible talk about the power of our words and the importance of speaking, saying it, and not saying certain things.
Yes.
Holding your tongue, because that can cause, you know, the change, or, you know, change the course of nature. Everything. So
you have the power to change the course. That's that moving mountain thing again. There
it's
you
the
go.
same, the moving the mountain.
There you go.
Yes, for our scripture today, that you can, with
we can
that
do the
that faith
impossible.
of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. All of us, each of us have
And we
that.
have.
And
you know, if we think about it, you know, if we think about, you know, things that we've been through and how resilient we are, we have done the impossible. Yeah. We can continue to do it.
This is true. I told myself I was going to live in paradise one day again. And here I am.
See?
Yes.
you see?
Oh, wow.
It
happened.
We do have that kind of power. Well, what do you think? I mean, I know that you learned a lot, especially with your mom having it.
Yes.
And I wonder with Jalaise, how do you feel? I mean, you know, we love Tony the Tiger. I like Tony the Tiger too. You know, that frosted flakes. So, you can continue to do that. And you're not in danger.
I'm relieved on the one hand that I can eat as many sweets as I want to eat, but then on the other, you know, there's that unknown factor, and I'm like, am I doing something wrong? But you know what? Faith, by faith, I will continue to enjoy Tony the Tiger.
And moderation.
In moderation.
Okay, moderation. That's right. I mean,
you can't eat as much Tony the Tiger as Special K.
It's not.
Okay. Well, so coming up next, of course, is our confession. Our confession for the week. Remember, again, this is the power of speaking, your self-talk. Our confession is what you would say out loud to yourself, about yourself, that can change your life. And it is, I have faith and power to have victory in every circumstance in my life. I live a victorious life. Yes. That's it. Okay.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Until we see you next time on Good Morning VI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the day the Lord has made. Whoa, whoa. Rejoice